Hello and welcome to the Sci-Fest Movie Talk episode. So in this episode I'm discussing the phenomenal and completely insane 2015 Australian post-apocalyptic dystopian action film and fourth entry into the overall Mad Max franchise, Mad Max Fury Road, as directed once again by George Miller after directing the previous three movies in the franchise to some extent. After a hiatus of about over 30 years, I think, and with this movie acting as kind of like a soft reboot for the franchise, Miller returns us once more to this apocalyptic and totally frenzied world of one Max Rotansky, or indeed Mad Max, as played this time around by Tom Hardy, who now takes over the role from Mel Gibson, who had played the character in the three previous movies released during the 70s and 80s. In a world where those who have gasoline and water hold all of the power, this time around Max finds himself captured and taken to a place known as Citadel, governed by a ruthless and unrelenting tyrant known as Imogen Joe, as played by Hugh Keays-Bryan, who has an army of dedicated believers at his disposal known as War Boys. Soon, and true to tradition, Max soon finds himself in the middle of a situation, and that's kind of putting it a bit lightly, when one of Imogen Joe's trusted warriors, Imperator Ferosa, as played by Charlize Theron, hatches a plan to take Joe's prized females and to a land promised to be full of green and fertile land, where they can be free of Joe, and his unyielding rape, servitude and persecution. Calling on his own war boys and fighters from the neighbouring settlements of Gastown and Bullet Farm, Imogen Joe launches an all-out assault on Ferosa to bring back his property, a fight that Max cannot just turn his back on, nor indeed run from, no matter how hard he might actually try. Thrown together, Max and Ferosa reluctantly join forces to defeat the armies that have besieged upon them, and in a fight to save not only themselves, but also to make sure that Imogen Joe can never abuse, rape or persecute anybody else ever again. Now, this film certainly needs to come with a warning, to make sure that your seatbelt is nice and tight before setting out on the 2-hour thrill fest that is this unrelenting, perpetual and absolutely merciless chase this movie actually is. It has one of the most straightforward and elegantly simple premise of any action film I know, but one which yields an almost perfect execution of action, suspense, spectacle and emotion, merging its over-the-top and extravagantly detailed action sequences with heart and an emotional story that brings a journey worth investing in. The whole movie expands from one simply delectable idea, a chase across the wastelands, and from start to finish, that's exactly what this film is, a 2-hour, almost non-stop chase sequence, bringing a very unique perspective on the whole kind of road trip genre for us, It's about as close to as being perfect as I have ever known a purely action-based movie to be. The thing is a work of art and pure cinematic genius, a complete spectacle and totally immersive environment that really never lets its rev count drop. The best thing of all for this soft reboot of the franchise is that it's not relevant, necessary, or even advisable to have kind of watched any of the previous movies in the series. None really had any kind of form of overall canon, but for starring the same main character and kind of having a number of kind of similar themes and dystopian visions, but each was so far removed from the last, they kind of operated as their own kind of more self-contained stories anyway. And this couldn't be further away from the previous entries in terms of quality, style and substance than any of them. This goes out and kind of brings together many of what could be considered the best elements of the previous movies and brings its own stamp of approval to a thoughtfully constructed story and exceptionally well choreographed visual display. The movie fills in all of the gaps. There's no need to have watched the original movies, nor even understand what they were about. To think that this was born from the Mad Max franchise after 30 years, after a 30-year hiatus, and indeed after the mixed quality of the previous 3 films. To think that this was derived from that universe with Miller returning to direct is beyond belief. This is simply Mad Max done right and done with conviction. Miller sets his vision on fire in this installment. Its relentless visuals are absolutely beautifully shot and perfectly crisp, bringing his unique style and enthusiasm for this world into unrivaled focus. He brings us a Max that's more true, original, gritty, human, the man. Back to the roots of the original. Back to his roots, looking out only for himself. But the thing that makes this entry interesting and unique is that it's not technically Max's story. He's just along for the ride, which ultimately actually feels like it gives the story more substance, more motivation. As per Miller's previous outings with the franchise, the characters here are absolutely eccentric and the villains are completely menacing, deliberately scary and instantly evil, but with Miller's flair of imagination and overcooked sense of bravado. The movie's fast pace doesn't make much room to kind of get used to these characters, but it does cleverly make sure that it kind of imprints all that we need to know on our subconscious very quickly. And Lord knows, you'll need every ounce of the rest of your frontal cortex to absorb the adrenaline rush that ensues. The first 20 minutes or so of this movie is absolutely insane, and every time I am enthralled. I literally have to tell myself to take a breath during the first act, otherwise I'd simply just end up asphyxiated. It more than takes your breath away, and there is a moment, a brief moment, when everything kind of just goes silent and you can literally hear everybody in the room take a breath. It really does kind of have that kind of hold on you, you know? Additionally, and for the first time in this franchise, we also have a score brought to us by Tom Holkenborg, aka Junkie XL, that's as impressive as the visuals. Absolutely intense and beating, completely enthralling, and always in that moment. It never overpowers, but its presence is more than felt. And in part, it forms a sort of symbiosis with the visuals, you know, both working in tandem to bring us this total assault of the senses. Overall, this film is simply off the charts, absolutely insane, showcasing some extremely cinematographic and intense action sequences and physical stunts. Totally brutal and completely unforgiving, bringing us an almost non-stop action for its entire runtime, which has been beautifully and masterfully directed to give us such an immersive and involved experience. This time around, we have a story that is more than worth telling, set against a truly eccentric world and with a high adrenaline, thrill-seeking chase that's absolutely relentless, intense, yet filled with emotion, inspiration, and plenty of hair-raising moments. This one promises it all, and it is one of those rare treats that actually delivers. Certainly one to be savoured. A film you can most certainly, easily lose yourself in. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and other movie-related content. Absolutely loved having you here at Southwest Movie Talk, and definitely love to have you back. Most of all, just thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.